Madam Secretary, I want to start by applauding you and President Biden. Through your implementation of the IRA and the IIJA, the administration has leveraged $649 billion in private investments in American energy and manufacturing. I think we can all agree that that's fantastic. But I also think we could do more. While 2023 was the strongest year on record for combined U.S. solar, wind, and energy storage installations, we still lag far behind China, who is dwarfing us in all those categories, as well as building out the grid. We're facing extraordinary growth in energy demand from electric vehicles, also from AI, from data centers, and the reshoring of domestic manufacturing, also thanks to the effort of the President Biden and his administration. But we will not be able to meet this energy demand nor our climate goals under the current permitting regime we have in this country. That's why I was happy to see the department's recent actions on permitting over the last few weeks, particularly through the Coordinated Interagency Transmission Authorizations and Permits Program, otherwise known as CITAP. These strong steps should meaningfully move the needle on siting and permitting for critically needed energy infrastructure. And I think we should be celebrating those steps on both sides of the aisle. I want to specifically focus on the department's efforts to energize permitting or to expedite permitting for solar and storage technologies on disturbed, developed, and other lower conflict areas. Can you talk about what you've done so far and what Congress can do to give you additional authority to do more of this?
First of all, thank you so much for your leadership on this. And while we can do what we can with administrative powers, we're grateful for the effort to try to seek a bipartisan solution on permitting reform. We have been doing a number of things. As you say, the CITAP program cuts in more than half to 2-year shot clock for permitting on public lands for transmission. Very important, and that corresponds with Congress's direction under the Fiscal Responsibility Act to cut permitting times while still preserving the ability and the intent under NEPA to ensure that our environment is protected. So we're also looking at ways to use categorical exemptions and making sure that we are not requiring doubling the effort at permitting and NEPA reviews when it's not necessary, when you're not expanding a footprint or you're only expanding it minimally. We also think it's important to be able to use CADXs on the tools that allow us to reconductor, the tools that allow us to attach grid-enhancing technologies to transmission so that we can get more power more smartly across the transmission lines. So we're looking at all of those ways to be able to do what we can to move power and to more efficiently and to cut down on permitting times. But I know that there are other ideas that Congress has been working with, and we are very supportive of whatever can happen that does it. And one other thing I would just add is that we have just been given funding through the Permitting Council, Department of Energy has, to use AI to be able to do permitting for NEPA. So if we are able to use artificial intelligence to create a very efficient permitting regime, that is another step that we can take so that we don't wait 10 years for a transmission line to be permitted.
That's very helpful. You know, I've often observed that the laws of the 1970s were built for defense, keeping us from doing stupid things, which we were doing. And today, as climate action advocates, we are tasked with building a lot of stuff, including transmission, offshore wind, utility-scale solar, hydrogen pipelines, direct air capture, everything else. We got to figure out ways to make it go faster. And I also would encourage you to think about pre-approvals for particular technologies that we understand well, and particularly for disturbed areas where it's not a concern that we're disturbing an environmental resource. Do you have any thought on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. Those are ideas, the exact kind of ideas that we should be pursuing.
You've been asked about college campuses and everything else. This is supposed to be a hearing about the budget, and I do have a budget question, but I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to ask you it, and then we'll submit questions for the record so you can respond more fully. But it's about the quantity of personnel. Maybe this is partly AI. We're going to need to hire up to do all the analysis under the existing permit regime on all these projects. I've heard estimates of 30 to 60,000 new projects because of what Congress and the President have done through these laws. How are we going to pay for that? What's that going to cost?
Are you
And
talking about
we'll-
AI, on the AI?
I'm not talking about AI, I'm talking about like the personnel. And not, beyond just creating positions and funding positions, will we actually be able to hire folks in a challenged labor market? I'm out of time, so I'm going to put those questions in writing. But again, thank you for your help, and thanks so much for being here today. I yield back.